everybody. Happy Monday. Hope y'all had a wonderful weekend. So, we have been talking a lot about the border lately, just like everyone else is, because the showdown that is going on between Texas and the Biden admin just seems to get crazier by the day. And now the movement is growing rapidly and extending beyond just Texas being in the fight with this close the border movement. So just to catch you guys up, after we recorded for Friday morning's podcast, introduced a bill called the State Border Security Act. And the purpose of this was to try to prohibit the federal government from removing fencing that states put up along the US-Mexico border within 25 miles of the southern border. And then House Rep. Mike Collins from Georgia introduced a similar measure called the Restricting Administration Zealots from Obliging Raiders, aka the RAZOR Act. But then the bomb came when Trump put out a statement encouraging all willing states to deploy their National Guard members to the Texas border to stop illegal migrants from coming into the country and send them back. And Trump gave one of his epic speeches where he said, quote, "In the face of this national security, public safety, and public health catastrophe, Texas has rightly invoked the invasion clause of the Constitution and must be given full support to repel the invasion. All Americans should support the common sense measures by Texas authorities to protect the safety, security, and sovereignty of Texas and the American people," end quote. And Stephanie, I can't remember if it was Wednesday or Friday that you were saying you saw on TikTok that like 25 governors had pledged to back Abbott, but an article came out in the Washington Examiner on Friday that confirmed it. And so these 25 governors, by the way, that's half of the country. They issued a joint statement on Thursday afternoon where they said, quote, "President Biden and his administration have left Americans and our country completely vulnerable to unprecedented illegal immigration pouring across the southern border. Instead of upholding the rule of law and securing the border, the Biden administration has attacked and sued Texas for stepping up to protect American citizens from historic levels of illegal immigrants, deadly drugs like fentanyl, and terrorists entering our country. We stand in solidarity with our fellow Governor Greg Abbott and the state of Texas in utilizing every tool and strategy, including razor wire fences, to secure the border. The authors of the U.S. Constitution made it clear in times like this, states have a right of self-defense under Article 4, Section 4, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution. Because the Biden administration has abdicated its constitutional compact duties to the states, Texas has every legal justification to protect the sovereignty of our states and our nation," end quote. So I know I mentioned last week 15 states, but just to give you guys, here's the current list. So it's Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. So Stephanie, I know we have talked about a possible civil war, but now we've got 25 states formally backing Texas in this fight.
Yeah, it was interesting. I came across a post again on TikTok today, and it showed a map of the United States with red over like where the Civil War was between the North and the South last time. And it was like, the bottom right corner of the country, just a few states. And then it showed this time all the red states. And it's everyone except cities. I mean, there's, New York, Chicago, LA. So that was interesting. And I would like to point out too, don't you think it's interesting how we always are like way ahead of the mainstream news with this stuff? So people say like, oh, TikTok, like whatever, like that's misinformation, disinformation. Yet everything that we find on there ends up being confirmed days, weeks, months later. So yeah, like I think that's interesting to point out. But I do think that civil war is a very real possibility. I mean, I think this is the closest we are to it in our lifetime. And the conspiracy side of me keeps asking the question, why now? And I know I brought this up on another episode, but I can't get it out of my head that like this is all coming to a head at this very point in time that coincides with our military going to this massive drill in Europe. And, we've been asking the question for a long time now, like, how is Biden getting away with this? And I think a lot of people that love this country have asked the same question. But maybe before like standing up to him for his treasonous acts, they actually have a plan and have had a plan to win, And so maybe like that is why they're choosing this specific point in time. And I think it's crystal clear over the last few months that we all know they're going to do anything they can to keep Trump from becoming president again. Like we've talked about that in depth. They've arrested him multiple times. And I'm sure that him and all of his supporters can see that they're going to try to put him in jail for life before they let him get back in the White House. So, with all that being said, if there ever, was going to be a time where we're going to stand up against the elites in power, now would be that time. And when I heard Trump telling all the states, like you just said, to back Abbott, that's when it just solidified my conspiracy that like maybe this is like the good guys trying to take back control of our country from all the powerful leftist elites. And you have that NATO announcement of this drill, which means that a lot of our military is going to be overseas. And again, it's like you just think about it. If you were going to plan something, wouldn't that be the perfect time to make a move when Biden's military isn't here to do anything about it? And they have 76% of the population on their side about the border issue, maybe even more. I mean, this is just what they're reporting, and support from half the states, like formal support. And even Democrats now are admitting that the border is an issue. So, now they've backed Biden into this corner because he's essentially taking action to stop the protection of our country by suing Texas over the razor wire. And now that Abbott won't back down, he can try and federalize the National Guard so that it would be under his command instead of Abbott's. But like, are they even going to listen? And Abbott's refusing to back down. And what about the 25 other states sending their National Guard to Texas? So I just feel like it's a lose-lose situation for Biden because at this point, no matter what way it plays out, he's the bad guy that let our country become invaded. And not only that, but I was listening to the Morning Wire podcast on Friday, and they said that despite this showdown, the National Guard and Border Patrol are getting along great. Like many of them are friends. They have the same exact outlook on the border. And even the head of the Border Patrol union stated that removing the razor wire is going to entice more illegal entry. So Biden essentially has no one on his side. Yet the National Guard are like, they are blocking the Border Patrol, but the Border Patrol has been complaining about Biden's policies since the beginning. So they sure as hell aren't on his side. So what then? Like, most likely, this is going to end up being a battle fought in court. But all it takes is one stupid move to turn this into a hands-on war. And we know Biden is known for stupid moves. And we also know Abbott has made it clear, crystal clear, that he is not going to back down. And he has half the country standing behind him. So if there ever were a time to take back the country, I think it would be now. And Abbott actually went on Tucker Carlson, and it's a little bit of a long clip, but I want you guys to hear what he had to say.
If the administration declares that it plans to federalize the National Guard of the state of Texas, your National Guard, what will be your response?
Well, first, I'll be shocked. That would be a boneheaded move on his part, a total disaster. But for one, as you might imagine, we are prepared in the event that that unlikely event does occur to make sure that we will be able to continue exactly what we've been doing over the past month, and that is building these barriers, whether it be the concertina wire or other anti-climb border barriers, whatever we've been building. The Biden administration is now trying to attack us because of it. And we will continue to do exactly what we're doing to expand our denial of illegal entry into the state of Texas.
With state employees, I assume, not with National Guard, but can you envision a scenario in which you would put armed state employees on the border instead of the National Guard of Texas?
We do have other armed state employees on the border as we speak right this minute, and that's the Texas Department of Public Safety, as well as other law enforcement officers. as well as National Guard from other states. And you can be assured there will be more National Guard from other states and more law enforcement officers within the state of Texas and other states. And Tucker, I just signed a new law in the state of Texas that will go into effect on March the 5th that authorizes any law enforcement officer in the state of Texas to be able to arrest anybody coming across the border illegally.
Have you spoken to the president or anyone from the Biden White House about what appears to be an imminent collision?
I have not, to be clear. I have spoken to the president about the border. I met him on a tarmac in El Paso and talked to him directly about what was going on. I handed him a letter that had in it immediate solutions he could take that would immediately secure the border without the need of any new law to be passed. Despite the fact that I handed him on altogether 8 different letters, he has refused to ever respond. My point in telling you that, we have laid down the precursor of what's called Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution to show that we have been invaded and we have demanded support from the president to safeguard our state. And they have refused to do so 8 times. And that authorized me to declare an invasion under Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution to make sure that Texas is going to be able to use every tool in our arsenal to defend our state.
Of the couple of dozen Republican-led states who've pledged support for you, how many do you think would send National Guard to Texas?
I'll be shocked and disappointed if almost all of them do not send. There have been about 10 so far that have sent National Guard or other law enforcement.
Okay, so at the beginning, I don't know if you caught that, but he was saying, you know, that if Biden tries to federalize the National Guard, that would be a boneheaded move, but that they have a plan for that. And they have all these state, you know, employees and law enforcement officers that have weapons. So, I mean, and then he put that law into place a few months back where they can arrest any, you know, law enforcement officer can arrest illegal migrants if they come across them. So we have a governor that won't back down and a president that refuses to negotiate. Abbott said on that tarmac, he gave Biden a crystal clear solution to secure the border without any new law being passed. Like that sounds,
8 times.
yeah,
8 times. He said
8
he gave
times.
yeah.
And Biden refused. Right. So it's like, just like he said, this will not come to an end until January 20th, 2025, when a new president gets in the White House. Like that's the way they're looking at it. And unless there's a civil war before then. But here's the thing about this whole civil war situation, because you go on social media and everyone's like, fuck yeah, like civil war, let's go to war, take our country back. But the flip side of that is that, you know, Biden has the military funding and equipment behind him. And like we've said many times before, they would love to declare martial law because it would mean no election. And then they would have the authority to go after every single Trump supporter if they chose to do so. And look at what they did to the January 6 people. There are people that are sentenced to 20 years in prison that literally did nothing but stand at or around the Capitol. So like this whole Biden regime, they're ruthless. And a civil war would mean that, you know, they're going to stop at nothing to make sure that every last Trump supporter no longer has a voice. So there's a flip side to that I think we all need to keep in mind when we're cheering this on.
Yeah, and to your point about that, I want to play a clip from Real AF last week. So you had Andy and DJ were talking about how the Supreme Court ruled in support of Biden removing the razor wire. And Andy brought up that the US military consists of 1.4 million soldiers. And we've had 6.2 million migrants enter the country, and most of those are military age males. So when you look at it, that's 3 migrants to every 1 active military person. And these migrants have dispersed all across the country to all of these major cities, right? And so to put that into perspective, Fox News reported that by the time Biden completes 4 years in office, 1 out of every 5 people, 1 out of every 85 people in the United States will be an illegal migrant who arrived under Biden's term. Like that's fucking staggering, right?
That's insane.
But I want to, yeah, it is. But back to this clip I want to play. So Andy and DJ were talking about the history of migrants coming to America and how it's totally different from what's happening right now with this illegal migration, and how this is like a critical part of the danger of the situation that we have right now. So it's kind of a long clip, but it's really good.
And think the best of other people, but we have to face reality here, bro. And these people are coming to take your shit. They're not coming to fucking with their families to buy out. No, bro. They are coming to take your shit. And the first opportunity they get, they will do it. And we can see this because this is happening in Europe and it's been happening for a decade. Go ask the men and women of Ireland what they think about this. Go ask the men and women of Belgium and Holland what they think about this, or of Germany, or of France. Okay, they will tell you very straight up, this is a big fucking problem. And if they listen to what I'm saying, if you play them clips of what I'm telling you, they would say, that man is telling the truth. You should listen to him. Okay, but a lot of you guys are so fucking up your own ass with what's going on in social media or the Chiefs games or whatever's going on, right? That you don't pay attention to what's happening, dude, and this is going to get very dangerous. Do you think people traveled across the world and they're not serious about what they came here to get? You're not serious, dude. And let me ask you this. If things get hard and the power goes out and shit happens and we get some civil unrest, who's going to be more capable? Is it going to be third world people who have lived without comfort, without power in a lot of cases, who've had to like survive their whole lives, who are hardened people, or soft Americans who give a fuck about football on Sundays? Who's going to win that? Okay, you're going to come home from work one day and these motherfuckers are going to be in your house and you're not going to know what to do. And then you're going to call the cops and they're going to say, we can't do anything because of the law. And they're going to, and then you're out and they're in. Okay. And it could go a lot of different ways. It could go more different ways than that. It could go, they offer these people citizenship for joining the military, which is what they're doing in Germany right now. Okay, so they can arm and train these people. And then, you know, we decide to protest it and they turn these motherfuckers on us. That could happen. Okay, they could create George Floyd style riots over the summer, anti-deportation riots. And they could, these Democrats and these progressive communist people who are always leading, you know, the Act Blue campaigns, the same people behind the George Floyd destruction, these people are going to be, they could be saying, well, you know, we can't deport these people, blah, 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 and get these people. And then you have 10 million military-age males rioting instead of a bunch of blue-haired, malnourished nerds with their fucking trash can lids. Okay, now you got a real problem. And you say, oh, well, the military will stop it. No, they won't, because they're on the other side. The military has shown that they are on the side of the corrupt government. Yeah. The police have also shown that they, you know, they're going to kind of follow orders, man. It's my job. Okay, we are under a delusion if we think that the military is going to stand with the American people in a situation like that. So we got a big problem here. Especially when they're already outnumbered 3-1. That's what I'm saying, dude. We got a big problem here, man. It's a big problem. It's a big problem. And people are not taking it serious enough. They're not speaking out. They're not making demands. Men are not standing up. And guys, I've been telling you this for years and years and years and years and years. Okay? Like, I'm in Missouri, dude. Like, these motherfuckers nobody comes to Missouri. That's one of the great things about Missouri. Nobody comes here. All right? But wherever you are, I ain't coming to your neighborhood to save you, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys think, like, what do you guys think? I got some army here. I'm going to bring it to your neighborhood and we're going to fucking do this. You got to do that in your own neighborhood. You got to organize with your own people. You got to create systems and networks and, you know, a plan with your own fucking communities. And you're not doing it. You're just sitting there waiting for someone to do something and nobody's coming. I'm not coming. Trump's not coming. Nobody's coming. So what the fuck are you going to do?
That was
Boom.
good. A
Yeah.
lot of good points there.
Yeah, I mean, because seriously, what happens if they do turn them all into military?
Right. Well, and he brought up a good point too with the riots and stuff, because like, look at how many military age men you see out in the streets protesting the Israel-Palestine war. And, you know, it's like they could have a plan too, where they're paying these guys and it's like, yeah, if Trump gets reelected, you're all going to go to the streets and cause mayhem, you know, just like they did in 2020, but on a much bigger scale. And hearing that for every 85 people, there's one illegal migrant is astonishing. Like that, I can't get that out of my head. It truly puts things into perspective. And you want to hear something else that's astonishing? The Center for Immigration Studies just published an article saying that the United Nations is actually paying migrants that are coming to the United States. They give them cash vouchers, $372 million in cash and voucher assistance and multi-purpose cash assistance will be going to 624,000 migrants in transit to the United States during 2024. So we, the taxpayers, fund the United Nations, who's then taking our money and giving it to people to illegally enter our country. And just like he said, like, are they paying these people? And then there's this like, okay, you know, when we tell you to go into the streets and riot, you're going to riot. Like, this is insane. I can't even believe it. I can believe it, but I can't believe it.
I was gonna say, like, are you really surprised? It's the UN. Like, the UN is just as corrupt as the Biden administration. But
Mhm.
I do want to point out that American people are taking action. It's not just, you know, states with Republican governors mobilizing their National Guard. There is a massive convoy of truckers and big rigs that are going to be heading to 3 major migrant crossings to Eagle Pass in Texas, Yuma in Arizona, and San Ysidro in California. There is a planned 4-day Take Back Our Border event that is actually starting today, Monday, and it's supposed to end with a rally on February 3rd. So this group is apparently starting in Virginia, and then they're moving through Florida and Louisiana as they travel across the country, and they're going to be picking up additional truckers along the way, and then they'll split into 3 groups for these rallies on February 3rd. And they're calling on all active and retired law enforcement and military, veterans, elected officials, business owners, ranchers, truckers, bikers, media, mama bears, and then law-abiding, freedom-loving Americans to join their cause. And, you know, they're asking for the event to be peaceful, but they're also saying the American people have had enough. And this convoy is
Wait,
being,
so I'm a mama bear. Does that mean I should go and join them? Should I hop on this convoy?
well, they are coming through Florida, so it would be
Okay,
fairly
there
easy.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the guy that's organizing it, he's a retired US Army lieutenant. And so far, there's like hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are planning to participate. So my question is, what's the Biden admin going to do about it? Like, is Biden going to do what Trudeau did with the trucker convoy in Canada back in 2022 when Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act and gave the federal government power so they could stop crowdfunding for the truckers and froze their bank accounts and then had the government come in and tow all the trucks away? Because speaking of that incident, just a few days ago, Canada's federal court ruled that what Trudeau did was unjustified and unreasonable, and it was an infringement and violation of Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And basically, Trudeau illegally suppressed the citizens of Canada. But like you said, this could be the perfect reason for Biden to declare martial law, have the government come in and round up all of these patriotic Americans who are trying to save the country.
And this would be the perfect time for Biden to roll out the CBDC, central bank digital currency. I mean, it's just crazy. But yeah, even the Canadians are like fighting back against Trudeau. Like it's crazy. They're really turning against him. So I don't know, but like I just feel like it has been incredible to see our country uniting over this over the past, you know, week around Texas. Like I really think it's something that everyone is agreeing on, whether you're Democrat or Republican, whether you live in Texas or Illinois, like the border crisis, we can all agree it's gone way too far. And we talked about the impacts that it was having in Chicago last week. And I want to play a clip from members of the Black community in Chicago that gathered together to speak out against the mayor there for housing illegal migrants while there's so many Black people that can't find affordable housing and have been forced to leave the city. So I'm just going to play a quick clip from what they're telling the mayor.
This morning, I heard Mayor Brandon Johnson say that the sentiment in the Black community is waning. A lie. The sentiment is not waning. We're not okay with you taking our resources and giving them to people who don't live here. As Mark stated before, you are preparing housing for them. One of the reasons that the city of Chicago was able to close 50 schools was because of the Black Flight. And the reason we had a Black Flight was because there is no affordable housing in this city. It is because the city of Chicago shut down the voucher system so that Blacks who needed to get affordable housing could not. So they had no choice but to flee to other states. But now you found money for the migrants. That's right. We're coming. And then the thing you said was that the faith-based leaders were helping to bring around the sentiment. We haven't paid attention to faith-based leaders since Dr. Martin Luther King. And guess what? We're not listening to them now. We understand that they are bought and paid for. We understand that you control the narrative that they're trying to speak about. So let me just say this to you. We're not listening to them the same way we're not listening to you.
So I wanted to play that clip because I feel like people who forever have supported the Democrats because they depend on the government for affordable housing, vouchers, all the things that she listed, they're getting fed up because now illegal migrants are getting those things instead of American citizens. And they're starting to see this narrative, like she said, and that these people are bought and paid for. So, I mean, this open border, it's affecting everyone from all walks of life in every corner of this country. And it's the one thing that I think just might actually unite us. And it's certainly not helping Biden in election year because, like I said earlier, any move he makes at this point is going to look bad. I don't see any way out of this for him.
Well, let me tell you what moves Biden is going to make. So on Friday, first I read this article and then I couldn't find it. And it was saying Biden basically told Abbott, like, you're gonna, fix this issue or else. But I couldn't find the article. But I
No, I
remember.
remember that because I was thinking, like, or else what? Like, what
Right,
are you going to
exactly.
do?
Yeah. And then he says he would shut down the border, quote, when it becomes overwhelmed. Excuse me, like the border has been fucking overwhelmed since the day he came into office and lifted all the border restrictions. So then on Friday, he said that he's totally willing to close the border, quote, right now, but he's just waiting on lawmakers to send him a bill to sign. And so obviously all this action that's going on, the 25 states getting on board with Texas, the American trucker thing, like they're definitely putting pressure on Biden, right? So why is he suddenly interested in border security? Well, this bill that he wants, it also has billions of dollars in aid to Ukraine. And so, as House Majority Whip Tom Emmer said, Biden only suddenly cares about the border because it's basically becoming a political liability for him. So Biden gave a press conference on Saturday and he said, quote, a bipartisan bill would be good for America and help fix our broken immigration system and allow speedy access for those who deserve to be here. And Congress needs to get it done. It'll give me, as president, the emergency authority to shut down the border until it could get back under control. If the bill were law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly. If given the authority, I would use it the day I sign the bill into law, end quote. Stephanie, this is such bullshit. And you know who else thinks so? House Speaker Mike Johnson, because he responded to Biden's comments by saying Biden doesn't need congressional action to close the border. And he basically called on Biden to take executive action immediately and reverse the catastrophe that he's created. But I want to talk about what's being proposed in this bill because it hasn't been made public yet until things get hashed out in Congress, but it's currently in the Senate. And Mike Johnson's comment over the weekend was, quote, if the rumors about the contents of the draft proposal are true, it would have been dead on arrival in the House anyway, end quote. But Biden is claiming that this is going to be the toughest and fairest set of reforms to secure the border that we've ever had in our country. So I read in both Reuters and CNN that insiders are saying the White House will agree to put new limits on asylum at the border, including creating an expulsion power that would allow illegal migrants to be quickly returned to Mexico. But here's the catch. This is only if the migrant encounters surpass 4,000 a day or 8,500 in a week. And if there's more than 5,000 migrant encounters in a day, then the use of this expulsion authority would become mandatory. But at the same time, at least 1,400 migrants claiming asylum per day would still be able to come through border. Jesus, what is every episode? I can't speak. A legal border crossing if this expulsion power is in effect. Stephanie, like the border needs to be shut down, right? Not allowing 4,000 illegal migrants in a day, not 2,000, fucking zero. Like shut it the fuck down.
Well, yeah. And so they're saying that they can, first of all, he's admitting, okay, we do have an open border and it is a problem because he's been denying that for the past, 3.5 years. And then now he's saying, well, we can stop it at 4,000 or 5,000 a day. So you can stop it. So you can control the issue. You're just actively choosing not to. Kind of like the homeless problem in San Francisco that all of a sudden got cleaned up by Newsom right when China was coming to town. So it's like they can fix this. They're just actively choosing not to. And now they're going to try to blame it on Republicans in Congress. Like, shut the fuck up. No one's buying it.
Yep, exactly. And Biden is also saying that, this bill has funding for an additional 1,300 Border Patrol agents, 375 immigration judges, 1,600 asylum officers, and over 100 cutting-edge inspection machines to help detect and stop fentanyl. Again, to your point that you just made, this shit should have been done years ago, number one. And if we have money to spend on fucking transgender research, for parents affirming their kids' gender and sending money for Russian cats on treadmills, like, shouldn't this fucking money have already been spent to hire all these Border Patrol agents and judges and asylum officers?
This was done years ago with Trump. If he just simply reverted back to Trump policies, the border would be fine. We'd be good. But he refuses to do that because that would be admitting that he's wrong. And I'm glad you pointed that out because this shows that this bill isn't really about closing the border. It's about processing more people. It's all about spending money to process more people. We don't want more people. There's damn near 10 million people that have come in so far. We can't take anymore. Like, this is absolutely crazy. And the other thing that's crazy is you watch these videos of this park where the Texas National Guard is, and they went from having thousands of people per day to no one. I mean, they've completely closed it. So we already have everything we need to do this. We already have the laws on the books. It's just him enforcing them. We don't need more laws. We need to enforce the laws we already have. And I think that this is brilliant because it's showing that he is like actively refusing to do this. And it's going to lead to the impeachment of Mayorkas and maybe even the impeachment of Biden. Not that that's going to do anything, but it shows the American people on the left and the right what they're doing to this country. And again, like, Biden has no good way out. He can try to blame this all he wants on the Republicans in Congress, but it's clear what's happening here. So I'm kind of secretly, I'm kind of enjoying the show, although I'm also, I don't want this to turn into some like blown out civil war where we're all on edge. But I mean, I'm glad that it's showing his cards and showing everyone just how much he's screwed up this country because it's bad. And unfortunately, like, anything we do now is not going to reverse what's been done over the past few years. So I'm glad that they're finally standing up to him. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot more updates throughout the week. So everyone stay tuned and we'll see you back here next time.